Yesterday was President's Day, the cap off of what was a long and restful 3-day weekend for many people, yours truly included. And as become something of a tradition on President's Day, a list of scholars ranked the best and worst American presidents and everywhere in between. The results were somewhat surprising. According to current scholars, our occupant of the White House presently, Joe Biden, ranks 14th among all American presidents, whereas his predecessor, Donald Trump, ranks dead last. But that sort of begs the question: do scholars in America truly have a good feel for what's going on as far as the dynamics of the American people toward the two most recent occupants of the White House? Wonder what I'm talking about? Hold on, folks. We're going to get into all this in just 1 second. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. With yesterday being President's Day, you might expect that scholars, given what the holiday is, would come out with a ranking of American presidents from best to worst and everywhere in between. And on cue and without fail, scholars did just that. So let's take a look at this listing, and it will serve as a springboard for a discussion about our two most recent occupants of the White House and how they currently are faring in 2024. We start with an article from thehill.com. Headline: Presidential experts rank Biden 14th among presidents in survey. Trump comes in last. Article written by Sarah Syok. We read the following. In a recent survey conducted by a panel of experts specializing in the American presidency, President Biden ranked the 14th best president, while his likely 2024 opponent, former President Trump, found himself at the very bottom of the list. The 2024 Presidential Greatness Project Expert Survey, Lord, what a mouthful, which was conducted from November 15th to December 31st, included current and recent members of the President's and Executive Politics section of the American Political Science Association, which is the foremost organization of social science experts in presidential politics. The experts ranked Abraham Lincoln as America's greatest president. Biden was placed ahead of Woodrow Wilson, Ronald Reagan, and Ulysses S. Grant. Former President Obama was ranked 7th, 8 spots higher than when the experts were polled last year. Trump received the lowest ranking in the survey at 45th, placing below James Buchanan at 44, Andrew Johnson at 43rd, Franklin Pierce at 42, and William Henry Harrison at 41. The poll also ranked the partisan and ideological differences among respondents, with the surveyors arguing it did not, quote, tend to make a major difference overall in where the presidents were ranked. However, a noticeable partisan split emerged in the rankings for Obama and Biden, with Democrats respondents placing them at an average of 6th and 13th, while Republicans ranked them at 15th and 30th, respectively. Okay, let's take a look at the listing. Give me just 1 second. We'll pull this up. Now, I think you're going to find this somewhat comical considering where these folks are ranked. Lincoln is number 1. Okay, I'm not necessarily surprised. Some might debate that he should be that high for different reasons, but we can get into that argument another day. Obama ranks number 7th. Interesting. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald, number 10. Clinton, number 12. Biden, number 14. And then at the dead bottom of the list, Donald Trump at number 45. James Buchanan, which up until this point had been regarded as the worst American president, perhaps maybe just slightly behind Carter, is ranked ahead of Trump. Now, what are we to make of all this? Well, first of all, this is the opinion of a group of academic scholars. I am not going to sit here and necessarily get into a contest of various kinds with academics. They have their positions. They say they're not tainted by ideology. I would probably disagree with that, but this is where they rank them. However, Given what's going on in current America 2024, is it really appropriate, or maybe it's better to say accurate, to say that among the feeling of some people in American politics, this is where these men should rank? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Biden should be number one or necessarily Trump should be number one. Each president is defined by their times and the events that shaped those times. But I'm not so sure that Donald Trump ought to be ranked 45th among all presidents. Not necessarily even because I'm supporting Trump to come back to the White House in 2024. But honestly, when you look at the reaction of the American people to these two men, can you really say that that's the case? Want some evidence for my theory? Take a look at this. Donald Trump had two different events over the weekend. One of them was supposedly unplanned. The other one was a campaign rally in Waterford Township, Michigan. The event that was unplanned was Trump's attendance at SneakerCon, an event in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's been going on now for about 15, 16 years. And Trump was there to push a brand of sneakers that he's come out with. You got to give it to Trump. He never misses an opportunity. I want to play some clips and I want to ask you a question after I'm done. So we'll start with the first one. And this is Trump coming up to the stage. So, folks, do me a favor and take a listen to this.
Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Now, for the sake of fairness, yes, there were a smattering of boos. Everyone that was there was not a Donald Trump fan. I'll give you that much. But the second Trump hit the stage, a significant portion of this crowd let everybody know what they think of the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden, as a chant of "fuck Joe Biden" broke out among a big portion of the crowd. Now, that's not the only reaction that was had. I want to show you one, and this one's kind of, how do I want to put this? This one's kind of emotional, especially on the part of the person who's giving the statement. A young lady was brought up on stage, and I want you to hear this. Now, you can agree with her, disagree with her, whatever, but what I want you to notice is the passion with which this young lady speaks about Donald Trump. Folks, do me a favor, check this one out.
Yes, we need him. He's a Christian. He's a good, honest man. They're after him for no reason. Go out and vote for Trump. Vote Trump. No paper. Go out and vote for Trump. He's a good man. Look at his family. They're all good kids. All good kids. Yes.
Now, like I say, you can agree or disagree with some of the statements that the young lady made, and that's perfectly fine. That's your right to do it. You can think she's wrong. You can provide evidence of how you think she's wrong. Again, perfectly fine. That's your right to do it. But my point is this. Notice the reaction. Now, granted, she's a Trump supporter. I understand that. But it's the reaction to the guy who's running once again for the White House. One last clip, and then I'm going to get to my point. Folks, take a look at this and listen to what happens during this little 9-second clip, okay? Check this out.
We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
We want Trump. We want Trump. I ought to give you some idea of what most of this crowd was all about. Now, again, for the sake of complete fairness, there were people there that when Donald Trump took the stage, they booed. I get it. I understand that. But the point that I'm getting to is this. If Donald Trump ranks dead last among American presidents, at least in the eyes of scholars that study this sort of thing, then why is it that when Donald Trump goes somewhere, A, he draws a big crowd, B, they're very enthusiastic, and C, they're passionate? Now, I ask you to compare that to the reaction that Joe Biden gets when he goes most places. He usually can't draw a very large crowd. It's very, for lack of a better word, controlled in terms of the atmosphere. And there's not a lot of passion among people who are for Joe Biden. Now, if you want a little more proof of what I'm talking about, let me show you some clips from the Waterford, Michigan event. And I think you're going to get an idea for what I'm talking about. Before I play this, and I will not play the audio because that will get me an automatic copyright strike, I want you to take a look at this. The weather in Waterford, Michigan was about 10 degrees. People were standing in line for hours on end. I'm going to play this without audio, but I want you to look at the line that was waiting to get into this rally for Trump. Supposedly, there was a crowd of about 10,000. Take a look at this. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it runs about 1:20. But this line that you're looking at stretches all the way back as far as you can see it. It just keeps going and going and going and going. Now, ask yourself this question. Can you honestly say that people are lining up everywhere you turn to get in to a Joe Biden event? I can't. But a couple more clips. Again, where this was in Michigan, you'd expect some auto workers to be there. Well, one of them was, and he made his presence known. Folks, I want you to take a listen to this because this is kind of telling about how people feel about Trump, at least some of them in Michigan.
Thank you, President Trump. We got your back. The auto workers are going to support this guy like we did in 16, 20. We're going to do it again in 24.
Okay, you get my point. Now, again, for the sake of being totally and absolutely fair about this, yes, there are people that are supporting Joe Biden, and I do believe they are doing it with heartfelt passion. But can you honestly say that there's more of them than there are Trump supporters? Now, I understand everything that I am presenting here is completely anecdotal. I understand that. I'm just saying, all things being equal, I think there's more enthusiasm and passion out there for Trump than there is for Joe Biden. I will make a further argument that the people that are supporting Joe Biden aren't necessarily doing it out of passion and love for Joe Biden as much as they don't like Donald Trump. And I'm sorry, hate only gets you so far in a political campaign. Now, that's what's going on with Trump. Let's see what's happened this weekend for poor old Joe Biden. I show you a clip where Biden is coming back to Marine One, and I'm not trying to pick on the poor man, but I want you to notice something. Take a look at something and tell me what you guys think of this. This is Biden coming to Marine One. Watch. Now, I play that clip to say this. And again, I'm not trying to pick on the poor man. He's 81 years old, but did you notice the stiffness of his gait and the slowness of his walk? There is a perception, right or wrong, that is setting in among the American people. Joe Biden is too old to be put back into office for a second term, and images like that are not necessarily helping him. Now, lest you think that it's just imagery as to why Biden's got problems, check this out from thehill.com, and this comes from the same place where where Donald Trump was just at. Headline: Michigan progressives angry over Gaza urge voters to ditch Biden in the primary. Article by Alex Gankitano, we read the following. Progressive groups and Arab American grassroots organizations in Michigan are taking their protest over President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war to the ballot box ahead of the key battleground state's primary later this month. A concerted effort is underway to sway Democrats away from voting for Biden on February 27th, with some groups urging their supporters to cast their ballot for, quote, uncommitted. One organized effort, dubbed Abandon Biden, launched in October. It encouraged voters to withhold their vote from Biden's swing state primaries across the U.S. over his actions on the war in the Middle East. The movement grew this week when Our Revolution launched an organized effort telling voters to not commit to Biden or to former President Trump. The effort marks the deep anger felt by Arab Americans toward the White House since the start of the Israel Hamas war, in which Biden has been steadfast in his support of Israel, albeit increasingly disagreeing with its prime minister over stated goals in the war and rejected calls for a long term ceasefire. The frustration runs so deep that the Abandon Biden movement sees no way Biden can fix this situation and gain back its support, seeing a call for a ceasefire now being too little too late. Quote, he's got to do the right thing for the party and for the country itself, and he should step down as soon as possible because he's deeply toxic and we will never, ever support him. He can't do anything for us to support him. No one can tolerate a policy of death that lasts this long. People have to be held to account, said Hassan Abdel Salam, a member of the Abandoned Biden National Coalition. Folks, Biden's got big problems all over the board. And then on top of that, Biden's President's Day weekend didn't get any better when Politico dropped this story. Headline: Biden's brother used his name to promote a hospital chain, then it collapsed. Jim Biden played a major role in a company called AmeriCorps, which the government has accused of massive Medicare fraud. And when this story came out, believe me, the Biden White House was none too happy about it. I won't go into the whole thing, but I will get down to one part of it that I think is very interesting. Give me 1 second here. About maybe a quarter of the way into this story, we read the following. 4 years after its bankruptcy, federal investigators are still pursuing questions about what else happened at AmeriCorps. In September, the Securities and Exchange Commission accused one of Jim Biden's business partners of fraud related to loans of the company, alleging the business partners allegations the business partners have denied. Meanwhile, the Justice Department found that AmeriCorps Hospital in Pennsylvania entered into sham service agreements and paid kickbacks as part of a scheme that billed the government for medically unnecessary lab tests the hospital shipped out to be performed elsewhere. And then the coup de grace on all this. As layers of activity that occurred in and around AmeriCorps peeled back in a federal prosecution in Pennsylvania, a bankruptcy court in Kentucky, and tense witness interviews on Capitol Hill, a Politico investigation renders the most detailed picture to date of the ways in which Joe Biden's relatives leveraged his public stature to advance a private business venture. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden has got enormous problems all over the place, and none of them are getting any better. So I ask a simple question. Are these academic scholars correct in their ranking of presidents? Now, granted, they're doing it over the issue of history and over the issue of events, the totality of a presidency. But if you ask the American people who they rank higher between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I think the answer is starting to become obvious. There is a sizable portion of America that is more than willing to support Donald Trump. I'm not so sure the same can be said of Joe Biden, or maybe it's better to say it this way. There are a lot of people who genuinely love Donald Trump. I'm not so sure the same amount of people can be said to love Joe Biden. But that's what I think about it all. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number 1, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, please do so. Number 2, please hit the bell for notifications. I always want to make sure you're aware when new videos, new live streams are coming out. Number 3, please leave a comment below. Number 4, share the video around. And finally, give me a thumbs up. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative, and I'll see you next time.